Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. Yankees lose 2 of 3 to the Philadelphia Phillies at Yankee Stadium. Avoid the sweep. So they still have not been swept at home this season. It seemed like that was a definite possibility with the Yankees facing Zach Wheeler, but they find a way to win. And the bullpen gets the job done. But really, and look, it ends on a good note, but a lot more negative than positive on the whole. The big thing being that Aaron Judge goes on the injured list with a right flexor strain. Now, this could have been worse. This could have been a UCL injury, which would have seen him out for the season. That's not the case. The plan sounds to be a 10-day IL stint. He'll come back, DH, and then eventually work his way back to playing the outfield, which is the most advantageous because now the question becomes what happens with Giancarlo Stanton. And I think there's a thought that for the first time since 2023, he might play a little bit of outfield. But again, like, how much would that even be? Um, it's not great from that standpoint, right? Like, if this team was one where the DH was kind of interchangeable and, I mean, Stan is one of your best hitters. Unequivocally, he is, right? Like, he is on this team currently no worse than a top 3 hitter on the squad, right? I mean, maybe Bellinger, Stanton, if you want to go there, but like he is one of your most impact players. And so they're gonna have to deal with that once Judge comes back. And we saw that this was an issue for Judge in Toronto. Wasn't a good sign that he was making throws and wincing. They kind of, boom, they kind of made it seem like it was no big deal. And then Friday, he was making kind of lollipop throws in from the outfield. And sure enough, you come to find that he's not in the lineup on Saturday, which was curious against the lefty Ranger Suarez. And sure enough, they do X-rays. There was a lot of concern on Saturday, but post game, you find out that it's a right flexor strain, that he'll be back. Um, but it sucks. I mean, look, like he had a chance to win the Triple Crown. I think that now that is highly unlikely unless Kyle Raleigh cools off. So, there's kind of the unfortunate side for the statistical part of things. Um, could this be a blessing in disguise? I guess, right? I guess it could be, but the Yankees, they're right in the fight for the playoffs. I mean, as we speak right now, Yankees are 5.5 back in the division of Toronto, 5 in the loss side. That's obviously not great. And Toronto's playing really, really good baseball. And then as far as the wild card goes, as of now, and likely at the end of the day, Seattle's still playing right now, but they are losing late in the 8th inning. The way it's looking, the Yankees will be ahead 2 on the loss side of the Mariners, Red Sox, and Texas Rangers. And Texas has been scorching hot. They've been great lately. And Boston's been playing some good ball too. They just won a 3-game set at home against the Dodgers, winning 2 of 3. So, like, the thing is, the Yankees, there is no guarantee that this team makes the playoffs. Not at all, especially with Judge out. So they need to turn the tide. Trade deadline soon. That's the other thing. And we've already discussed it in a couple of previous episodes, but the Yankees acquire Ryan McMahon from the Rockies. And he really looked good in his first 2 games, I must say. Defensively, unbelievable, actually. And, you can't over exaggerate those things, right? Like when you're not accustomed to that sort of third base, but truly, like, some top-notch plays that under any circumstance are impressive. And then the Yankees also acquire Ahmed Rosario from the Washington Nationals. And um, the way it kind of lays out with this coming Rays series, which we'll discuss after going through the Phillies series, is it's all righties, starters. So expect to see Rosario off the bench. But when there is a lefty starter, I believe that Rosario will most likely play third base. McMahon will be the one that comes off the bench. It's a good situation, but the pitching is still now, especially where the Yankees need a lot of help. And there are players coming back from injury, but in a lot of those cases, you don't know what you're getting necessarily, right? Like Luis Seal, he'll help, but it's been a while. You don't know exactly what it's going to be. There's the likes of Fernando Cruz coming back down the line, Mark Leiter Jr., Ryan Yarbrough, just to name a few. So there is some internal pieces on the mend, but at the same time, you really, really want to get players via trade. And I think that that will be the goal here with just about 4 days away, really almost to the right on it, just a little shy of 4 days away from the trade deadline. As far as the transactions went, and there were a lot of them, like I said, chronologically, McMahon acquired from the Rockies, um, as well. The Yanks, with that, they send down Yorby Bibas, no surprise there. And they make some pitching moves too. They activate Yuri De Los Santos from the 15-day AL. He pitched in game two. They sent down Scott Efros, who got really hit hard in game one. Yeah, unfortunately, with Efros, it is now confirmed. Like, this is no longer someone that is really a priority in this bullpen. He just isn't. He is going to be someone that will be up and down. It's a shame because really in 2022, before he got hurt, it looked like he was going to be a high leverage reliever for this Yankee club. Then you also have, um, after game two, Alan Wynan sent down and they they recall lefty Brett Hedrick, who we've seen a couple different times. He actually made the club out of spring training. And then taking the spot of Aaron Judge on the roster, because Judge goes on the IL with the right flexor strain, is Ahmed Rosario, who was acquired by the from the Washington Nationals. So now it's an interesting situation where you have Peraza and Rosario on the bench. Peraza's future, it wouldn't seem great on the Yankees, I wouldn't think, but I don't fully know because they don't. I mean, as far as Rosario, I don't think they feel that comfortable with him at short. And so if that's the case, yes, you could use him if you needed it. But is it to the point where they would not want him at short? I don't know to that level. If he's not, then Peraza is the only one that can really play shortstop. I mean, I'm not going to count like a Jazz Chisholm Jr. who has not played shortstop in a long, long time. I'm not going to even count that. Rosario would be more likely than him. So this is going to be interesting to see what they do, but a lot more clarity, of course, in general by the Thursday trade deadline. So Phillies come to town, and they've been okay lately. They were coming off of winning 2 of 3 against the Red Sox. They really could have swept. They kind of let their final game get the best of them, and the Red Sox won in extra innings. But the Phillies certainly look pretty good at Yankee Stadium. They have a lot of pretty big threats in their lineup. Um, for the Yankees on the mound in game one was Will Warren, going 5 2/3, 5 hits, 2 runs, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts. Pretty good outing for Warren. Deserved kind of a better fate. He ends up with the no decision, could have easily had the win. And he's shown to be much better at home. And it's just something to kind of think about, right? If there is, and I hope it's not the case, if somehow Will Warren gets starts in the playoffs, which again, like if that were to be, it probably would be him as like a fourth starter. Warren has been much better at Yankee Stadium. Pretty drastically, I might add as well. For the Phillies, it was Taijuan Walker, who, um, the Yankees really kind of let him off the hook. I almost feel like 5 2/3 innings, 6 hits, 3 runs, no walks, and 3 strikeouts. Really just beat by the home run ball. Hit like 3 solo shots against Taijuan Walker. But this was one that you look back on, and the Yankees losing the series. This was the one that they let get away from them, right? Like, as bad as the series felt, you now look back at, because the Yankees really could have been. The fact of the matter is, the Yankees could have more likely been swept than 1, 2, or 3. However, game one, they let get away, and it was a lot of, and again, it was the bullpen that really fucked them horribly, I might add. And the defense wasn't good either, but I'm going to say more bullpen. As far as the lineup goes, this was Judge's last game before, hitting the shelf. And as far as who wasn't in the lineup, no Ben Rice. He would, get a pinch hit appearance, but no Rice, and as well, no Dominguez. And now, though, especially with Dominguez, with Judge out, Dominguez is going to get everyday run practically. Um, you know, and that's good for him. The only concern I have is late game situations. Dominguez is going to be out in left field. I don't see a scenario where he's being replaced defensively. So that is a little bit of the concern, but we'll see if that becomes a problem. Um, Let's see here. So the Yankees get on the board first, and it's Cody Bellinger, who has been really good lately. Bellinger hits his 19th home run to give the Yanks a 1-0 lead. Then in the bottom of the second, Austin Wells, he homers. It's his 15th homer of the year to make it 2-0. So a nice start for the Yankees, coming off of a really tough series against the Toronto Blue Jays. But then the bats kind of cooled down a little bit. Walker kind of is able to settle in, and Kyle Schwarber homers off of the one mistake that Warren made. It's a 2-run shot for Schwarber. His 35th homer of the year ties it up at two. Um, Tim Hill would come on to replace Will Warren to get the final out of the sixth. But out of the sixth, Giancarlo Stanton is able to hit his sixth homer of the year. Stanton has been very, very good, hitting a lot of balls to the opposite field. And here, giving the Yankees the lead back at 3-2. However, in the seventh, things come undone. I should also add that there's, Tanner Bank strikes at Austin Wells with two on and two out in the sixth after the Stanton homer. But in the seventh, it's a combination of Tim Hill and Luke Weaver that struggle. Uh, Trey Turner single, Kyle Schwarber single, a Bryce Harper ground out that leads to now second and third, one out. And you know what? I kind of downplayed the bad defense. Now, they would have lost regardless, but the defense was not good in this game. Like I shouldn't make that a light point because they really did have problems. And it kind of reared its ugly head in the seventh with Paul Goldschmidt. It ends up being an infield RBI single for uh, Nick Castellanos. And it's a play that Goldschmidt, I guess he was kind of in no man's land. And the way they were positioned, he probably wasn't going to get anyone out because Luke Weaver wasn't covering first, but it wasn't necessarily Weaver's fault. Again, with where they're positioned, he would have gotten in he was too far away from, well, Goldschmidt was far away from first himself. But the prudent move would have been to not throw home, right? Like you were going to get Trey Turner. And unfortunately, not only is he safe, but it's a bad throw by Goldschmidt, allowing Castellanos to go to second. So now that takes the double play out of the equation. Maybe the way that Weaver pitched was a little bit different, but here's the big blow. After the Goldschmidt error, which tied it up, it's a JT Realmuto 3-run homer. His seventh homer of the year makes it 6-3. Now, the Yankees did fight back a little bit in the bottom of the seventh off of Jordan Romano. Anthony Volpe homers his 14th homer of the year, so Volpe is getting back into the home run act. So at least there's that for Volpe, who has struggled in other ways, and the defense has been okay lately too. So, not a whole lot of Anthony Volpe chatter right now, but that could come back pretty quickly. A Rice pinch hit single, kind of a lucky hit, but Rice could use some because I feel like he's been pretty unlucky um, on the offensive side. Goes to second on a balk. A Trent Grisham ground out moves him to third. And then Aaron Judge sac fly makes it 6-5. So they kind of get right back in at the Yanks. And then Ian Hamilton gets off to a good start in the eighth, but can't finish it out. Two outs. And it's a 2-out walk to Trey Turner. And then Kyle Schwarber is at it again. 2-run homer Schwarber, second of the game, 36th of the season, makes it 8-5. That was a killer, right? Because the Philly bullpen is certainly very shaky. And if they could have kept it at one, maybe they make it happen. But that really took the wind out of their sails. Or Ryan Kirkring comes on and pitches a scoreless eighth inning for the Phillies. And then Scott Efros really gets hit hard. And it would be a double by Castellanos, and then an intentional walk with two out, where Kepler is intentionally up by Efros, and then you get an RBI single for Edmundo Sosa to make it 9-5, a 2-run double by Bryson Stott to make it 11-5, and then an RBI triple by Trey Turner to make it 12-5. So Efros really, the unfortunate part there is like he almost got out of the inning unscathed completely. And then after the intentional walk, it was just, he got bashed, by Sosa, Stott, Turner, and then even lined out, and then Schwarber lined out as well. So pretty ugly inning for Efros, gives up 4 runs there. Final score will be 12-5. I also want to mention that Will Warren, even though they got out of it, a bad throw by Warren early, which led to him throwing more pitches. It should have been an easy inning double play. This was, I think, the second inning, second or third inning. Let me confirm. Yeah, second inning on a Max Kepler ground ball. So, and as far as the defense, it was that which didn't cause any runs. Then it was the Goldschmidt one, which we could argue whether or not it did cause extra runs to be scored. Either way, Yankees lose 12-5. Now we go to game 2, and at this point, this is where the Judge news comes out. The McMahon deal had happened before game 1, but he was not part of the active roster for game 1. He was for game 2. You find out about the Judge, him not being in the lineup, and him getting x-rays. So kind of just a dark cloud over this game 2 in general. I mean, well, not literally, but still. Marcus Stroman struggled. Coming off of probably his best outing of his season against the Braves. Stroman, not so good in this one. Loses to go to 2-2, 3 2/3 innings, 5 hits, 4 runs, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts. So Those 4 walks are killer for Stroman. For the Phillies, Ranger Suarez was able to get the job done. Wins goes to 8-4, 5 2/3 innings, 7 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, and 8 strikeouts. For the Yankee lineup, obviously Judge out of this game. Austin Wells getting a breather and Ben Rice catching, as we've seen Stroman Rice be a combination. They go back to that. JC Escara has certainly lost some play with Rice catching now. Escara doesn't play that much. And I wonder will Escara be on this roster by the end of the deadline? I tend to think he will. I don't think they're going to view this as a Wells Rice catcher only situation, but I don't know. Crazier things have happened, and could they view that spot by Escara as not a great one? But I think that they view him highly, despite the fact that he hasn't played much lately. But wanted to bring that up. Um, and then no one really else I think of significance that was on the bench here. It was Judge, Peraza, um, Wells, and Escara. So first inning, the Phillies take the lead. Leadoff double by Trey Turner ends up with a 2-out RBI single by Real Muto to make it 1-0. Then Bryce Harper with an impressive home run off of Stroman. His 15th homer of the year makes it 2-0 Phils. Then in the fourth, the walks really kill Stroman to the point where he actually has a bases loaded walk to Johan Rojas, and then an RBI ground out for Trey Turner makes it 4-0. Yankees would get one back on the board. Jason Dominguez with an RBI single to make it 4-1. But that would be all. We go to the sixth. But by now, it would be Yuri De Los Santos who had come in the fourth and actually got Bryce Harper out with the bases loaded and 2 out. But he would eventually give up a run on an RBI double by Trey Turner. So that makes it 5-1 in the sixth. Jonathan Loaizaga would come on to finish out that sixth inning. Bottom of the sixth is where you see Ryan McMahon get his first hit as a Yankee. Trying to build a little bit of a rally, but Max Lazar, the righty, comes on, and he gets Jason Dominguez to ground out with 2 on, 2 out to keep the score at 5-1. And then things blow open in the seventh. As Alan Winans comes in, he'd be sent down after this game. Winans has not had any success at the major league level. Kepler single, 2-run homer for Edmundo Sosa. His fourth of the year makes it 7-1. You get a walk by Bryson Stott, eventually an error by Jazz Chisholm Jr. on a Trey Turner grounder. Doesn't help matters at all. So again, it's that defense again, kind of factoring in. But Kyle Schwarber, 2-run double makes it 9-1. And then in the bottom of the seventh, off of Daniel Robert, Giancarlo Stanton homers again. So back-to-back games of homers for Stanton. His 7th homer of the year makes it 9-3. Bottom of the eighth, it would be the Yankees would get a run on a balk, actually, with Paul Goldschmidt up to make it 9-4. But that would be your final score. 9-4, Phillies win. They win the series. And now they go for the sweep, which they'd be unsuccessful in. So again, Yankees have not been swept at home this season, which is something to be proud of. They've been swept twice this year, 3 games at Boston and 4 games at Toronto. And then again, that's the division issues being really, really, really bad. But here, they are able to win against Zach Wheeler, which was impressive. And it was really thanks to a second inning where they built up a nice rally and Wheeler made some mistakes. So Carlos Rodon picks up the win, gets his 11th win, 11-7, 5 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 3 runs, 1 walk, and 8 strikeouts. Does allow 3 homers, but luckily all 3 were solo shots. And I can live with that. Right? I don't like that Rodon, can be a bit of a home run pitcher at times, but you can live with the solo shots and, was able to get the win for the Yanks. And Rodon, it hasn't been such smooth sailing lately, but it's also not been horrible either. 3.18 ERA is still very good. And this was a tough Philly lineup, and especially for lefties as well. So in this one, it would be Paul Goldschmidt, who would come in off the bench, but against the righty, Goldschmidt sits. And then Ahmed Rosario was on the active roster, but he, of course, against the righty would sit as well. But for this game, it would be the Phillies getting on the board first. I want to give Zach Wheeler's line. He loses to go to 9-4, 5 2/3 innings, 5 hits, 4 runs, 2 walks, and 8 strikeouts. But what killed him was 3 hit by pitches. That really got the best of him. Really uncharacteristic of Wheeler, as good control. And in the second inning, and there was about a half-hour rain delay or so for this, Nick Castellanos, with his 14th homer of the year, makes it 1-0 Phillies. And then Otto Kemp, he homers in the second inning as well. His third homer of the year makes it 2-0. But then in the second inning is when the Yankees get it going, and it's Giancarlo Stanton gets it started. An opposite field base hit. That's what he's been doing. He has been a force at the plate lately, and right now, 276 batting average and an 875 OPS. Really good numbers. Jazz gets hit. Dominguez gets hit. Back-to-back guys. And Ryan McMahon really gets the big hit of the game. It's a 2-run double down the line past Bryce Harper at first. So it's McMahon's first RBIs as a Yankee, and he made some good plays in games 2 and 3. I didn't talk about that specifically in game 2. I might not even in game 3, but he made some really good plays at third base. Showed a strong arm, an accurate arm, and was able to get to the ball well, too. So McMahon ties it up at 2 with that 2-run double. A Volpe strikeout doesn't get the job done, but Austin Wells, who is a sac fly machine, makes it 3-2 Yanks. Dominguez scores. And then with 2 out, what ends up being huge was a Trent Grisham RBI single to give the Yankees a 4-2 lead. And then Rodon does settles it a little bit. In the bottom of the third, you get a leadoff triple by Cody Bellinger on a diving play by Nick Castellanos that doesn't work. However, Giancarlo Stanton strikes out. Not a great at-bat by him there. And then Jazz hits what looked to be a sac fly. However, Bellinger is turning it home. And look, a good throw by Rojas, a nice tag by Real Muto, but also not a very good slide by Cody Bellinger, who normally does all the right things. But here, kind of perplexing as to why he chose to use his backhand. He could have easily slid in there with his feet and scored, but he's thrown out. Luckily, it didn't cost the Yankees the game. Score remains 4-2. And then in the fifth, it would be an Otto Kemp homer again. So his second homer of the game, fourth of the season, makes it 4-3. And then Rodon, got into some trouble. First and second, no out, but he gets Rojas to strike out looking. Trey Turner grounds out on a nice play by McMahon right there to get the speedy Turner. And then Schwarber flies out on a ball that looked like it could have been a 3-run homer, but Bellinger gets it at the track. So that was kind of the spot right there where the Phillies had their best opportunity the rest of the way. Jonathan Loaisiga replaces Rodon with 1 out in the sixth. Loaisiga is able to get out of it. The Yankees need Loaisiga to turn it around. He's really struggled a lot, but they still have faith in him, and they still hope that he can be a big part of this bullpen. Wheeler would go 5 2/3. Finishing out the inning would be lefty Tanner Banks as he gets Trent Grisham to ground out with a couple guys on there. And then in the seventh inning, Luke Weaver is able to go 1-2-3. In the, top of the eighth, it'd be Tim Hill. And you could have had Luke Weaver pitch to Trey Turner to start the inning, but I kind of understand why they went with Hill because if you didn't get a 1-2-3 inning and you brought in Hill to face Schwarber, Hill would have had to have faced Castellanos. Now, that could have been avoidable, but if not really a situation that you want, let it be Hill to start out the inning. But look, if Turner did something off of Hill, that certainly would have led to a lot of questioning. So when it works out, it's not as big a deal. But Tim Hill, who's been very consistent this year, he pitches a 1-2-3/8 inning. And then in the ninth, it would be Devin Williams, who has been sensational. Picks up his 16th save of the year, strikes out a couple as well. Really, for a while now, Devin Williams has been very consistent, only has that one blown save on the season, which is kind of crazy considering how poor he had been early on. But ever since sometime in May, probably, and really he has taken that ninth inning role and just run with it, right? Like there is no question at this point that he's the closer. What does it mean down the line? I don't know, right? Let's say the Yankees do make the playoffs and Devin Williams is a closer. Am I going to feel amazing about it? Probably not. But the fact is that Williams' stuff looks really good, and it's good to see him lock this down. Yankees don't get swept, lose 2 of 3 to the Phillies. And now they will get ready for a 4-game set home against the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, the Rays have actually been worse than the Yankees lately. The Rays sit at 53-53. And I think that this series will go a long way in determining the Rays' direction at the trade deadline, right? If they somehow lose the series to the Yankees, which based on the Yankees' poor play within division, I don't know that'll happen, but if it somehow does, it really could lead them to being maybe soft sellers at the deadline. That's kind of the way that they lean everything being equal anyway, or maybe just baseball trades, but I certainly wouldn't expect them to be buyers. But this is a really big series. The Rays kind of sit a little bit away from the pack, not that far. But when you think about the Yanks, Mariners, Red Sox, Texas Rangers, like the Rays are a little bit behind that right now. So, and they have a team, at least one team to leap over as well, right? The teams I mentioned, one of them would miss the playoffs. Right now, it would either be Texas or Seattle, depending on like tiebreaker situations, right? And the Red Sox are right there too. But um, it's a really big series for both teams, and the Yankees need to improve in division. This is a big one, as the Yankees have an ability here to basically kind of put the Rays out in a lot of ways. And what I mean by that is, again, it's with that trade deadline in mind. So here are the matchups, and it's very righty heavy. There's obviously out of those 8 starters in this series, only one of them is a lefty in Max Fried. And so, from the Yankees hitter perspective, expect to see a lot of Ryan McMahon and not a lot of Ahmed Rosario, at least in terms of starting goes. But I think the Yankees right now are more well equipped to face right-handed pitching, especially with Judge out of the lineup and bringing in McMahon. I think the Yankees, I want them to become a little bit more right-handed, which is why I thought the Rosario move made sense. But game one, it's Drew Rasmussen versus Cam Schlittler. So, always excited to see what Schlittler can do. This is his 3rd start, but on paper, this one definitely would favor Tampa. Even though Rasmussen's strikeout numbers aren't quite as high as they used to be, still has pretty good numbers overall. Game two is definitely slanted in the Yankees' direction, most of all of them. It's Max Fried for the Yanks, and for the Rays, it's righty Joe Boyle. So game two, again, on paper, edge Yankees. Game three, will be a matchup between Zach Littell, who used to be in the Yankee system a while ago, against Will Warren. And then game four will actually be sort of the one Major League Baseball afternoon game leading into the trade deadline. So interesting timing here is the trade deadline, which is normally earlier. It's at 6:00, and this is a 1:00 game at Yankee Stadium. Ryan Pepio against Marcus Stroman. So expect a lot to go on that day and in the week in general. But, I would expect with the Yankees playing this and kind of finding out about trades, that'll be a busy one. But Yankees, they start out the homestand losing 2 of 3. They lose Judge for some length of time here, and that's not good at all. But hopefully, it is late July. Hopefully the Yankees don't, tumble down too far down the standings with Judge out. Just got to kind of, be able to tread water here until he's back. And then, it goes from DH to hopefully him getting back into right field. So, Yankees, they have a big series coming up against the Rays. I mean, the Rays have been struggling lately. Yankees have as well. But when these two teams play, it's going to be pretty competitive, and I don't think it'll be easy. I wouldn't be surprised if we leave this series talking about a split in this 4-game set, but we'll see what happens as the Yankees finish off their homestand against the Rays, which also coincides with Thursday's trade deadline.